AJ Gillinger, you have been in Grapevine for a super long time. How does Grapevine's history play a role with respect to business, especially business on Main Street?
Well, we're in the historic district down here. I'm in the overlay. I'm not completely in the district,
Right.
but it's this is a really cool, really neat city. The history, with Sam Houston coming here and negotiating with the Indian tribes so that we could settle.
Sure.
And I know a lot of the old families that are still here, so it's really kind of cool to hear it. I'm originally from Houston, but
Nice.
now I'm all Grapevine. All my kids went to Grapevine High School.
Great. So you have got the coolest little vibe here. AJ's on Main. As Grapevine modernizes, like as example, Hotel Vin, right? Extremely different vibe than right here. How does that resonate with you, and how are you going to keep? What do you plan on doing?
Well, I'll tell you a cool story since you bring up the Vin. Just a little side note for you. The owner was brought over here to meet me.
Cool.
And he said whenever they did the ribbon cutting that he wasn't sure he picked the right place until he actually got out.
Wow.
And he said my place was a major influence that really showed him a lot of what Grapevine was. And I introduced the manager to him here in the restaurant. And now he's his number 2 guy over there.
Oh my.
So now when getting back to how I see things, I love the old. I love everything about it, and I love the new too. And we got some area that we can change on some of the old and still keep it cool, and keep things with the same tradition that we've had for quite a while. When I first started working here, I remember there were several businesses that were still boarded up. So it's changed a lot. I remember the historical district and the housing.
Right.
You could have bought a house for $35,000-$40,000. Not anymore.
Crazy. Yeah, I remember we used to buy feed across the street from our horse, from Mitch, I think.
Yeah, it was too bad when they closed up. And it was, usually it was pretty funny. Anything that I needed, I could walk across the street and get it.
Nice.
And,
nice.
if I needed something, they had it.
Yeah, great. I mean, that place, talk about iconic. Okay, so you've been in Grapevine for, while we're here, like right at 3 o'clock. It's going to go off 3 times now. You're here for about 24 years. How has the growth of Grapevine affected you with respect to community, your residents, and your business?
Well, it's funny. When I first started, working in the area in Euless, all the highway was approved. And we came to the Grapevine Police Department, the old police department on Dallas Road, to actually look at how the map was going to be.
Nice.
And, that was in 1993, I believe. And it just got completed. So all of that was, supposed to be, the answer to everything. And now we still have traffic out there. So Grapevine is growing. And every day we have over 1 million people in our city. We're 60,000, roughly 60,000 residents here.
Right.
But every day we're 1 million to 1.5 million people moving through our city.
It's very cool.
And that's pretty cool. And I think the cool part about Grapevine and my restaurant is that most of our customers have just become friends, and we just
Nice.
we have a good time and we hang out. Tonight is the parade for the high school homecoming.
Right.
And we got tables reserved for people that are regulars here all the time.
That's very cool. Well, speaking of that, you've had a really interesting career. You were military for a number of years, law enforcement. What kind of give me a little history story on what prompted you to start working here and grow this into what it is now?
So, I got 8 years active duty, a little over 8 years, something like that. And then I stayed in the reserves. So I retired with about 23 years reserves.
Cool. I'm just curious, what was your, what do you call it in the Air Force? What was your MOS?
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. It was, I was law enforcement. So
Cool.
my first duty assignment was Clark Air Base in the Philippines.
Nice.
I was an 18-year-old kid carrying a M16 mini rifle on the back of my backside, and
Release authority.
keeping the dog next to me, and working the washout areas of the Philippines. The washout is for us is kind of similar to like a bayou.
Right.
But we worked all of that, and went from there to Altus, Oklahoma. Froze my butt off because I got there in January. It was really cold. And worked in Altus, went TDY to Cuba.
What's TDY means?
Temporary duty. I went over. We had the first Haitian uprising where they left Haiti. They were saving them out in the Gulf and repatriated them through Cuba, our base.
Wow.
Cuba's been there forever. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know about it until all the Abu Ghraib and all the stuff that went on with Afghanistan.
Right.
Did my time there. I came back. I went to Korea for a year.
South Korea.
South Korea.
Just kidding.
Osan Air Base. I was a bomb dog handler there.
Very cool.
And then got back to the States out in Abilene, Dias Air Force Base.
Wow, that's an extreme.
Yeah. And then decided I wanted to get out, and I got out. Got hired by the Euless Police Department. Stayed in the reserves, though. Mm-hmm. In the reserves, I became a firearms instructor.
Nice.
Which, just hanging out and shooting all day is pretty cool. But I did that, and then worked for Euless. I didn't know that the grass was any greener up here. I just thought it was surrounded by a lot more concrete. So I moved to Grapevine, and I don't regret it. So,
what year was that?
I think I came to Grapevine and I think it was 98.
Cool.
98, I think it was July 98 as a matter of fact. Stayed in Grapevine. I worked patrol my whole career. Worked nights my whole career. Got burned out with working nights. Couldn't look for the good in people anymore. All I could do is look for the bad. And I became miserable. My wife told me I was miserable. It told me that I needed to retire. So she called me like 3 o'clock in the morning, telling me, "Hey, why don't you retire?"
Wow.
We have 5 kids.
Oh my gosh.
She said, "You'd be okay with me leaving the United States and going to Afghanistan, and you stay here with the kids?" And she told me that I was miserable again. Told me that I was making everybody miserable around them. And said that if it got me out of the funk that I was in, to retire and go. So I did. And went over. I made some really good money. Met some really good people, and I met some of the worst.
Sure.
And some of the things that went on in Afghanistan would be a shocking eye-opener to a lot of us here.
Absolutely.
Came back from there and stayed at home, hanging out with my kids, taking them to school, picking them up from school, making dinner for them, and I turned into Mr. Mom.
Nice.
But one of the things that I was doing is every time I got to the point where everything was done, all the kids were at home. I was cracking open beers and drinking them and getting fat. My wife came home and told me that I couldn't sit around the house and drink beer all day. I said, "Okay."
Good for her.
I said, "I'm retired, though." I said, "I retired twice now." And she said, "No, you're going back to work." So this used to be the Oyster Bar, and Will Wickman was a friend of mine. Will had told me one time that he thought that I would end up here. And I laughed at him. I said, "That's never going to happen. I don't like oysters. I don't know who's the first guy that cracked open an oyster. He had to be hungry." And everybody says, no, you got to have this. And, put this on and put a little bit of this on. And man, just order chips and salsa. Most you got to do for chips and salsa, maybe put a little more salt on it. But oysters were not me. But he kept asking me. And I'd come to work, and then he'd hire somebody else. I'd go home. He'd get mad at him and fire him, call me back, and come up. He did it like 2 times. 3rd time he did it, I told him, I said, "Hey, don't hire anybody else. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to help you." It's okay. I started really prodding him about changing because, we'd go through the day and have 2 customers. And he'd run one of them off and make the other one mad that they were never going to come back. And I kept telling him, let's change. And he was reluctant. He didn't want to change anything. And I said, "Man, we need to change." And he said, "Why do we need to change?" I said, "Because I need to make some money." I said, "I can't work in here like this." And he disagreed with me. and he was closed on Sundays and Mondays. So Sunday, me and my son moved a smoker up here, and Monday I came up with 2 briskets and a couple of beers and hung out and cooked brisket and had them ready for the next day, and kind of changed real quick. It went from me helping Will to me taking it over. I was probably here about 2 months.
Wow.
And here we were talking about me taking over a restaurant. I've never worked in a restaurant in my life. I've never worked in a bar in my life. But we were talking about it. And he told me, why don't you just rent it from me? We had agreed on a price. And next day at about 11 o'clock at night, he sent me a message on text and said, wouldn't you rather own this? I said, yeah, I'd love to own it. I said, but how am I going to go into a bank and say, I need $500,000 to start a business that I've never done in my life? And he said, don't worry about a bank. We'll work it out. So we did. And now I own the property. He stayed here with me for a little bit. And then I think he stayed because he wasn't sure if I was going to make it.
Nice.
And we started doing good, and it really took off. And working here has been therapeutic. It's turned me back into a human being.
Nice.
I like talking to people again. I look for the good in people. I don't look for the bad. And I'm having a good time.
Well, so dovetailing that into some of the cool things you have, you got dollar bills on the wall, you have license plates here, you've got your train smoker. You want to talk about how maybe some of those items came about?
Yeah. It was really funny.
The dollar bills are on the ceiling, not on the wall.
Yeah. Well, there's some on the walls too.
Is that right?
Some people like to put them wherever. So, but I guess what started out, my whole vision was the train. I knew that the commuter was coming, but we had Puffy, the locomotive. I thought he was so cool. As a kid, man, who doesn't love trains? And
for sure,
I've been a kid for a long time, But one of the things I had a vision that I wanted to do was put a smoker that looked like a train over there. So I had a guy come in and he sat down at our center table and he drew it out on a yellow notebook, and we came up with the idea. I love saying I'm living the dream. So that's one of the slogans that's on the train, is just living the dream. We got some vintage rail that it's attached to over there from the cotton belt.
Cool.
And it was one of those things that it just really fit here.
Nice.
And we put 2 badges on it. The badges are for Darren Medlin. He was a police officer that I worked with. He was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, wow.
And 2 weeks later, we lost a fireman. He was a good friend of mine. And I put their 2 badges on there. So.
Oh, that's really cool.
But then, the dollars on the ceiling came. A guy wanted to put his name on the ceiling. He was in one afternoon. I said, you want to do what? And he said, I want to put $1 up there. I said, why? And he said, well, you got a really cool place here and people like to do that. It's okay, knock yourself out.
Nice.
Well, it took off. So not this past May, but the May before, we took it all down and donated it. And we donated just under $4,000 from the ceiling. Gosh. But then in addition to that, we raised $25,000 for the charity in one day.
Wow.
So then this year, we switched our charity to the Grapevine Shield Foundation.
Cool.
And this past May for them, we raised $30,000.
Oh my gosh.
In one day.
That is incredible.
So next, not this weekend, but next weekend, October 26th, we're going to be having a chili cook-off here. And we're going to have 30 teams competing back there in the back. And we're going to raise more money for the Shield.
That's really cool.
And we got a pretty cool shout out from John Rich, and he donated the guitar to us, and then he made us a video promo talking about the event for us. So
nice.
Pretty cool.
So you talked about this a little bit before. I have a friend of mine who he owned, not kidding, 6 restaurants in his life, and he told me by far the hardest one was a barbecue joint. And business ownership is definitely not for the faint of heart. What keeps you going?
Mostly bourbon. No, I'm just kidding. I tell you, this is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I just never dreamed that I would be sitting here talking to you about me owning a restaurant.
Crazy.
I have no kind of training whatsoever. I love to cook, and I love to try different things and stuff, but barbecue was always big for me. And I think we're doing pretty good with it. It's coming up on 12 years for us here, and we survived COVID. That was the biggest one. A lot of people said, man, you should do takeout. Barbecue's not good for takeout, because if you don't get 15 people come in and get it, I'm going to eat a whole lot of barbecue.
Right.
So we shut down for about 45 days, and then after that we opened up on a real light schedule, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then when it finally started coming out of the end of COVID, we went back to our full schedule. So now we're just open, 6 days. We're closed on Mondays.
Great. Well, so speaking about ownership, dovetailing that into your military law enforcement experience, I also served 20 years in the Navy Reserve.
Thank you for your service.
You bet. Ditto.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, what qualities do you think have helped you in building this business with respect to the military? Like, for instance, for me, situational awareness, handling issues at the lowest level possible, understanding leadership and team building, all that kind of stuff.
Throughout my whole military career, we were doing a lot of new things in the Air Force. Total quality management was one of the big ones. Total quality management would handle it at the lowest level.
Sure.
And the only problem with it for the military is, when it's wartime, you don't want the lowest guy trying to figure out your problems. So that kind of backfired a little bit there. But total quality management just really pushed me forward to, the experience that I have as a supervisor, being a leader, and just being positive about things and pushing forward. When we first started here, it was really funny. My wife, she come to me and she said, "Aren't you even a little bit afraid?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I've been a success at everything I did. I was a success in the Air Force, ULIS, Grapevine, going to Afghanistan, working for the Department of State. I did a lot. And I never went into thinking, man, I'm going to fail."
Sure.
And when I said that to her, it was almost like I saw a change in her too. And she realized, because everything she's ever done, she's been a success at. She's got probably 35 years in medical billing and supervision. So pretty proud of her for the stuff that she does. And then she'll show up here and wait on tables with me. So she's ready to hang it up and come and be full time here.
Wow, that's cool.
I'm not ready for her to hang it up yet and come and be full time.
Well, so speaking about the military, do you have any stories that you're willing to share?
I tell you some funny stuff, man. It was cuisine. Because being in the military, I went to the Philippines.
Sure.
And I watched some of our Department of Defense security guards that worked with us hand in hand. They were catching these little bug things and putting them in a milk jug all night. I was a canine handler, so I could sit way off in the distance somewhere and watch people. And these guys were collecting these little bugs that they cooked with. And then just the cuisine that was over there.
Sure.
Man, it was so different than what I was used to, even growing up in Houston.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I was, probably one of the most diverse cities in the world, but I didn't know what the Philippines was. In high school, one of my assignments was the Philippines. And my answer to the teacher is, why do I got to do this? I'm never going to the Philippines.
Nice.
I went back and apologized to her, too.
Great.
So this was my first duty assignment.
Love
so it was pretty cool. But again, going back to the cuisine, they had such a different cuisine. And I've ate bugs. And I've tried them. And some I wish I never tried.
I remember there was this one buffet that I was at, and I was going to take this dish. Looked really good. It had chicken, and it looked like it had feta cheese in it. And I went to grab it, put it on my plate, and I had a guy come up to me, "Sir, you do not want that. It's local." And it turns out, I think it was balut, which is embryo.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah, probably not for me.
Yeah.
But good stuff.
I never tried it. I've seen them guys eat it, and I've seen them, man, it would drip down their arm, and they would lick their arm.
Oh my gosh.
But it was funny being in the Philippines and being in Korea. Both of them cook with a lot of vinegar and stuff, and I use a lot of vinegar in what I do here. And my coleslaw is actually a vinegar-based coleslaw that we come up with. And,
cool.
It's different than any other coleslaw that I've ever seen.
You mentioned that working at AJ's, your place, is a type of therapy for you. How have you changed over the years with respect to the people you deal with, your community, and your home life?
Well, it's kind of funny. My daughter, she runs my kitchen for me, and being in police work and military, I lost a lot of time with my kids. And through this, I got to spend a lot more time with my kids. Every one of my kids has worked here.
Cool.
And my daughter, she's the one that stuck with me, and I don't know how sometimes because I'm pretty hard to deal with. But this was pretty cool that I could make up time, that I missed, and seeing her grow in this. And my hopes is that eventually this will be Morgan's on Main.
Wow, cool. Well, so that leads me to my next question. Since family is obviously a big part of your life, how has your family influenced you in the way that you do business?
A lot of the stuff that we cook is what my kids, wanted. And one of the things we needed an appetizer here, and we have these chicken poppers. That's what we call them, chicken poppers. It's a piece of white meat chicken, a piece of jalapeno wrapped in bacon and deep fried. My best friend, Joe, made those for us when we watched football and UFC fighting.
Right.
And so we were here talking, and my son Arlie and my daughter Morgan both said, "Well, Dad, why don't you do those chicken popper things?" And it came up onto the menu. So that's one of the things that everything we do has been influenced by our home life.
That's really cool. What about like your just the way that you interact with your family? Because what I'm getting at is, you said when you started working here, your outlook's changed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the big things about working here, when I'm working here, I'm AJ. I'm not Dad, and all my kids figured that out real quick. I fired one of them.
Oh my!
So, but we interact a little different up here because it's a business, and they know it. But we're a business, but we're a family. And like I was talking about, earlier, the majority of my customers are my families. They're just that close to me. And I've had people that live over here in the historical district that started coming in here when they were first trying to come to the historical district. And one of the things that I'll never forget this, they put a $20 bill up on the ceiling, and it said "Worth It."
Cool.
I didn't know at the time they had just closed on a piece of property on Worth Street.
Oh, that's fun.
And they had a house built, so Worth It was
nice.
Being on Worth Street.
Nice.
So pretty cool.
Nice. Okay, let's transition to like some personal stuff. I did read somewhere you're a huge music fan. If you could, what one song or one genre would be AJ's?
One song's easy for me. Promised Land, Elvis Presley.
Very cool.
At the beginning of the song, when he says, "All get on it," man, that's me. Let's go. Nice. Get on it.
Okay, so next question. If you could invite anybody here, any kind of figure, anybody famous, who would it be and why?
I got three, actually.
Cool.
And I've thought about that a lot because I've had people ask me. First would be Elvis. I think the dude was so cool. I'd like to see how he was personally. I'm a huge music fan. I think the best singer is George Jones.
Wow.
So I'd bring George Jones in here.
Right.
And probably the last one would be Johnny Cash.
Cool.
Because I think I would get some spiritual out of him.
Right on.
Because he was heavily influenced by
Sure.
the Lord.
Sure.
And, this right here for me, this was a lot of the Lord's work. When we first got started, we were talking about doing our financing and changing this over so that it would be under ours. Mm-hmm. And it went from costing us $300 to costing us $7,000 for the closing. And I'd already spent every bit of money I had because I'd already bought equipment. And I started thinking, well, man, I'm not going to have a down payment. I needed a $10,000 down payment.
Wow. So
we got my taxes done right in that same time period, coming back from Afghanistan. I needed $10,000. I made $9,960 on my return. So God said, find 40 more bucks. We were able to get our down payment and move on. So I think that was a God thing.
All right, Grapevine is changing fast, or at least they have. Well, I've seen a lot of changes over the years. Where do you see Main Street changing with respect to the charm, and then also, you've got a great vibe here. How are you expect to maintain that same charm?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fun. We have our elected officials here, and I'm friends with probably the majority of them. And some things they do I like, some things they don't. And I'm at a point right now, and I'm not trying to make this personal towards anyone in leadership at all.
Sure.
But I want some change, and I do. I want a little new thought brought in, because we have all the downtown, great charm, and if we made a few changes, it's not gonna affect that. We are who we are. I just think that we need a little bit of new ambition.
Okay, so speaking of that, what would you say to the younger generation with respect to how they should treat Grapevine historically and from a community standpoint?
First of all, I think our youngsters need to pay attention to our history first.
Great.
And I'm a huge history guy. I love history. Pay attention to our history and get involved at a lower level. Right now, we got so many people worried about who's going to be the president. And we should be more worried about who's on our school board and who's sitting on our city council. They control our taxes at the lowest level. We have such a low turnout for our population here. These elections in a city that's close to 60,000 people. Our elections are under 4,000, 5,000 people, depending on what's at stake. Usually, if it's a election with the president, we get a lot bigger turnout. But it still is not comparative to our 60,000 population that we have here. So I challenge youngsters to get involved early. Pay attention to the politics, because that's what's going to really affect your life.
Awesome. AJ, as we land the plane, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you'd like to share?
This is such a beautiful town, though. I mean, it's so cool with everything that we got going on. With this weekend, we have Thomas the Tank that's going to be here.
Great.
Then right after that, Christmas happens, and it's going to happen all around us.
Right. Actually, tell me about that, because this is I think it's an official Christmas. I saw somewhere, actually it was national, right?
Yeah. They want to take us from the Christmas capital of Texas to the Christmas capital of the United States.
That's really cool.
Last year, with everything that went on here, I believe that the number was over 1,100 events from the day after Thanksgiving until the New Year.
Awesome.
So 1,100 events in that short of a period of time is massive. The decorations, it's like you can come down here and be a kid again, and you can forget about some of the seriousness that's going on and just concentrate on Christmas, concentrate on your beliefs, and have fun with your family. I'm a huge family guy, man. I got 5 kids.
Nice.
Christmas used to be so big for me, and then I got kind of a little burned out with it when my kids started getting a little older, and now it's kind of revived again, and I'm
love that.
I'm happy that I'm decorating. We used to our home used to look like the Griswolds' home.
Nice.
Because we would just put up some of the silliest lights. All the lights that I would have left over, I would make a great big G on the roof of the house. The Gillingers instead of the Griswolds, but it was fun, and it kind of went away, and then it came back, and I'm glad. And my kids really get into the Christmas stuff now too.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
If you are interested in anything Grapevine, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and we'll be sharing as much as we can in the months to follow. Peace out, y'all.